I have transmigrated into the villainess of a romance novel. It's a very cliché plot. The female lead's grandfather once saved the male lead's grandfather's life, so the male lead's grandfather forced him to marry the female lead. From disdain to genuine affection, the male lead falls in love after marriage. The female lead runs away pregnant. The male lead chases after her in a fiery pursuit, and in the end, the two live happily together. Happy end. And my identity as the original character is that of the male lead's childhood sweetheart and ex-girlfriend of 2 years, a classic villainess who turned from love to hatred. Like all antagonists, her fate is naturally tragic. Her business was taken over by the male lead, her family went bankrupt, and the impoverished original character could only rent a place in an urban village. Due to her striking looks, she caught the attention of local troublemakers and ultimately met a tragic end. In the storyline, the original character, driven by unrequited love, spiraled into madness and obsession, ultimately causing her own demise. And now, this overwhelming wealth has finally come to me. The male lead. Is money that appealing? Bad news, I died. Good news, I time traveled. I, Tiffany, an ordinary member of the 996 workforce and a billionaire, unfortunately died suddenly after working overtime for a week on an important project. Fortunately, perhaps the timing of my death was auspicious, as I happened to catch the wave of time travelers and became one of them. Lying on a luxurious king-size bed that was a full 3 meters wide, I gazed up at the extravagant European-style chandelier above and quietly contemplated life, or more accurately, sorted through the memories of the original owner of this body. As soon as these memories flooded in, I realized my current situation matched that of a romance novel I had read not long ago. The villainess, Tiffany, shared the same name as me, which is why the novel left a deep impression on me. Although I couldn't recall the finer details, I still remembered the main characters. The male lead in the novel was named George, and the female lead was named Tara, and the ex-boyfriend of the original owner is named George. Just yesterday, he married someone named Tara. What are the odds of such a coincidence in the world? It's confirmed, this is a fictional world. And I've actually become the villainous Tiffany from the novel. As for why I ended up here, I must have died suddenly, and the original Tiffany, heartbroken because the man she loved, George, got married, drowned her sorrows at home by drinking several bottles of red wine. She probably drank too much and kicked the bucket. Anyway, the reason is unclear, but the current situation is that I've crossed over into her body. Since things have come to this, let's eat first. King crab, bluefin tuna, California red abalone. I can only say, the life of the rich is just so simple and unadorned. Wah, so happy. After enjoying a lavish feast, I started to get down to business. First, review the plot. Yesterday was the day George and Tara got married, because Grandpa Powell supervised the entire process. The wedding of the two was grand and could be said to have caused a sensation throughout J City. The original Tiffany made a scene at George's wedding, attempting to disrupt the ceremony. And in the end, she naturally ended up humiliated, becoming a huge joke. Here, I can't help but curse the male lead. What a spineless coward. The male lead, George, repeatedly claimed that he loved the original Tiffany and put on a neither riches nor honors can corrupt, neither poverty nor lowly condition can make him swerve attitude in front of her, firmly rejecting his grandfather's arranged marriage. Yet, in the end, he compromised and married Tara. At the wedding, George, too afraid to defy his grandfather, allowed the original Tiffany to become the laughingstock of J City. Although it became a topic of laughter after meals, the substantial harm wasn't significant. Besides, I have thick skin and don't really care. As long as the money is still there, everything is fine. As for the plot, I only remember the general outline. What's certain is that it's still the early stages of the storyline. As long as I turn the tide, I definitely won't end up like in the original plot. Of course, it's uncertain whether there might be non-human factors, like the world's consciousness, forcing the plot to proceed. I can only take it one step at a time. And now, the most important thing is, of course, money. I carefully recall my memories and organize my assets. Tiffany's parents passed away in a plane crash 2 years ago, leaving her a huge inheritance, along with the Taylor family group. The market value of the Taylor family group should currently be around $30 billion, and in addition, including the standalone villa in the city center where I currently live. I own 12 properties under my name, worth about 500 million, jewelry, luxury cars, and designer watches are worth 100 million, and finally, I have over 30 million in cash on hand. After taking stock of my assets, I can only say, heaven has been kind to me, truly kind. There are so many wealthy people in the world. And now I'm finally one of them, ha ha ha. After laughing and celebrating wildly in my heart for a while, I started making arrangements. First, I need to leave myself a way out. With just a few phone calls, client managers from major insurance companies came to my door. I made a bold move and invested a round number of 30 million. I diversified my purchases, buying several policies from a few major insurance institutions. Simply put, I invested 30 million in insurance all at once. And now I receive a monthly dividend of 150,000, which I'll keep getting until I die. Although this is a losing deal, insurance has one major advantage: it won't be liquidated after bankruptcy. Even if I go bankrupt as in the plot, I can still receive 1.8 million in insurance money every year. With a backup plan, I feel a bit more at ease. Then I keep wavering between playing it safe and going all out. Playing it safe, take the money and run, stay away from the male and female leads, and live happily as a wealthy woman. Go all out, work hard to make money, defeat the fate of bankruptcy, and become a busy rich woman. I was extremely conflicted and hesitant. Before I could come to a decision, the butler arrived. "Miss, young Master George is here." The butler looked rather uneasy and added, "His new wife is also here. They are both in the living room. Would you like to go down and see them?" "Wait, why are they able to enter my house? You previously said that if young Master George comes, no matter what you're doing, just let him in directly." I frowned and ordered, "Next time, without an appointment, stop them at the door, including George. Having outsiders coming and going freely in the house is too unsettling." The butler was taken aback for a moment, then showed a hint of relief and agreed readily. "Yes, miss, I'll change my clothes. Let them wait. Just brew some ordinary tea. Don't touch the Hong Pao my father left behind." The butler was overjoyed at my change. Yes, of course. After changing, I leisurely made my way downstairs. Tiffany, upon seeing me, George immediately stood up and hurried over in a few quick steps, his expression full of concern. "Butlerly said you weren't feeling well. Are you all right?" George had fair skin, deep-set features, and a tall, slender build. The custom-made, hand-tailored suit he wore made him stand out even more. I couldn't help but take a few extra glances at him. He really is good-looking. No wonder the original host was so infatuated with him. As for the female lead, Tara was sitting on the sofa at the moment, her hands placed in front of her, nervously twisting her fingers. She came across as rather petty, and as for her appearance, at first glance, she didn't stand out, but she was the type who grew on you, the more you looked, the prettier she seemed. Additionally, she had an ethereal, orchid-like elegance. Of course, this is the description from the plot. I didn't have the patience to observe her closely, so in my eyes, she was just an ordinary girl with delicate features, the kind who would blend into a crowd, no more than an extra. I looked in the mirror early this morning, and my face is truly stunning now, a top-tier beauty, as gorgeous as a rose. In terms of looks and family background, the original owner clearly had the upper hand. Marrying her would also come with the Taylor family conglomerate for free. I don't know what Grandpa Powell was thinking, insisting on having Tara as his granddaughter-in-law. Well, in the world of romance novels, logic isn't really necessary. After all, a 40-year-old menopausal female cleaner with 2 kids can still get a CEO. At least ours is somewhat normal. After sizing up the 2 of them, I looked listless and spoke with a somewhat indifferent tone. "I'm fine. Is there something you two, as a couple, need?" "Tiffany, are you angry?" George's face darkened, and he anxiously explained, "What happened yesterday was my fault, but Grandpa was there at the time. I really couldn't leave with you." "Humph," I sneered inwardly, watching him calmly. "You know, Grandpa has a weak heart. He can't handle any stress. He said he wouldn't rest in peace if he couldn't see me get married. So I really had no choice." George explained with a troubled expression. "Don't worry, Tara and I are only getting married in name, Miss Tiffany. Mr. George and I are indeed getting married in name only," Tara said, looking up at me with a completely open expression. I know you two are truly in love, don't worry, I won't interfere in someone else's relationship. The marriage certificate is fake, I retorted. Although the marriage certificate is real, it was only to reassure Grandpa. George looked slightly embarrassed and quickly defended himself. Tiffany, don't worry, Grandpa won't be keeping such a close watch now. Tara and I will go through the divorce procedures in a while, Tara explained earnestly. Yes, Miss Tiffany, Mr. George and I are truly in a fake marriage. We signed an agreement. I'm just an actress hired by Mr. George. You don't need to mind my presence. After George and Tara's fervent explanations, I finally believed in their innocence and smiled again. However, Brother George, even though your marriage is fake, others don't know that. If I continue to stay as close to you as before, people might mistake me for the other woman, I said with a pitiful tone, then put on an understanding expression. Besides, Grandpa is not in good health. If he hears any rumors and gets upset because of it, I would be the one to blame. So, let's keep our distance for a while. Tiffany, you really are thoughtful. George was convinced by what I said. The misunderstanding was cleared up, and we made up as if nothing had happened. In the end, I saw them off with a smile, but as soon as the two of them left, my face darkened and I spat in disgust. Ugh, what a scumbag and a bitch. George is a scumbag, no doubt about it. As for the female lead Tara, in my opinion, she's hypocritical and self-righteous. I didn't like her when I was reading the novel. Perhaps stimulated by the two of them, I recalled quite a bit of the plot, as the female lead. Tara has a tragic background. Her parents divorced, each started their own families, and Tara grew up living with her grandparents. Her grandmother passed away during her high school years, and her grandfather died just after she graduated from college. At Tara's grandpa's funeral, Grandpa Powell saw that she was all alone and helpless, so he took her home and had George marry her. It can be said that Tara really had it rough, but she was already a college graduate, couldn't she support herself? Or she could have just asked Grandpa Powell for money directly. Did she really have to stay with the Powell family and marry George? To take a step back, fine, a marriage of convenience. George pays her a monthly salary of $50,000, and Tara only needs to put on an act in front of George's grandfather. Since it's just an employment relationship, shouldn't they keep their distance? What did Tara do? She felt guilty about the $50,000 she received every month and didn't feel at ease taking it. So she decided to become a nanny, taking care of George's daily life in every way. Forcing work when there's none. If you only see yourself as an employee, why rush to work? Wouldn't it be more enjoyable to just play around every day while getting paid? And shouldn't you think about your future and find a job? Working as a nanny for George for a few years, becoming disconnected from society, and then, after the agreement ends, having no work experience. What else can I do but continue being a nanny? If I were to say Tara doesn't have her own little schemes, I definitely wouldn't believe it. In the storyline, Tara takes meticulous care of George, and Tiffany, who feels the two are too close, frequently gets jealous. Every time she makes a scene, the two of them would say, George, Tiffany, Tara is just taking care of my daily needs. She's just a nanny. That's all. Tara, Miss Tiffany, Mr. George pays the salary. And I do the work. You can really treat me as a nanny, rest assured. I have no inappropriate thoughts about Mr. George. I've seen tomboy sluts, green tea sluts, and saintly sluts, but this nanny slut is truly the first I've encountered. Later, because of Tara's understanding and empathy, Tiffany, in contrast, appeared particularly unreasonable and willful. George's inner balance unconsciously shifted, and he slowly fell in love with Tara without even realizing it. Clearly sensing George's change and fearing she might lose him, Tiffany resorted to a classic female antagonist move, drugging him. The result was that George, despite feeling uncomfortable, pushed her away and ran home to be with Tara. It's undeniable that Tiffany was at fault first. But George kept saying he liked Tiffany, yet ended up choosing to get intimate with the nanny. Really, what a joke. And then came the even more shocking part. 2 months after George and Tara had a physical relationship, George's grandfather fell ill and passed away. After the funeral, Tara, who discovered she was pregnant, left a farewell letter and departed. The farewell letter read, "Thank you for your care. I don't want to ruin the relationship between Mr. George and Miss Tiffany. So I'll take my leave now." On the surface, she left calmly, but in reality, she was running away while pregnant. The classic line, "It's a life," after all, led Tara to give birth to her son. Meanwhile, George was busy seizing power. 2 years later, he finally secured his position as the chairman of the Powell family group, and then he began to miss Tara. Still unaware that he had fallen in love with Tara, George continued his entanglement with Tiffany, and the two even got engaged. Then, on the day of their engagement party, George received a distress message from Tara. Tara's biological father wants to sell her for a bride price. In a moment of desperation, George suddenly realized that he truly loves Tara. George abandoned Tiffany to play the hero and rescue the damsel in distress, only to discover he has a 2-year-old son. What followed was George's desperate attempt to win back his wife. A classic case of a domineering CEO's forced love. The family of three was reunited, which drove the jealous antagonist Tiffany into a fit of rage and darkness. The result was naturally the bankruptcy of the Taylor family. Tiffany became penniless, couldn't bounce back anymore, and ended up dying a miserable death. In the plot, today George brought Tara to explain, and the love-struck Tiffany forgave him. The two reconciled and became all lovey-dovey again. Then, in the eyes of others who were unaware, the Taylor family's eldest daughter was seen as shameless, relentlessly clinging to George, a married man. I don't deny that being love-struck is deserving of blame, but the scumbag is even more detestable. I want revenge, but I'm a bit scared, so I tentatively stretched out my little foot to test the waters. For the next week, George didn't contact me, and I didn't reach out to him either. I accomplished a few major things. First, I sold several properties along with some jewelry, raising $200 million in cash. With this money, I bought an estate abroad. Additionally, I increased my insurance coverage to $100 million. Starting next month, I'll be able to receive around $500,000 per month. Additionally, leveraging the advantage of foresight, I identified 5 promising companies from the side plots of the story and invested in them, with amounts ranging from a few million to tens of millions. 3 of these companies were actually poached from George. If all goes well, investing in these 5 companies could yield a 100-fold return, of course. If the male protagonist's plot armor is in play, only the companies George invests in will thrive, and my money would be wasted. Bet on it, win the bet, and a bicycle turns into a Ferrari. Lose the bet, and I still have $6 million a year as a safety net. A week passed like this. I only gave perfunctory replies to the messages George sent, and as for frequently seeking him out as in the plot, that was completely absent. The reality has changed, with no irresistible factors to correct the plot, so I am free, not controlled by the storyline. The male and female leads can most likely be defeated. With immense confidence, I went to inspect my family's Taylor group. Here, I can't help but complain again. The original Tiffany studied art, specifically painting, and had no understanding of business at all. I really don't understand why the Taylor family, with only one daughter, didn't raise her as an elite successor through rigorous education. Instead, they let her willfully develop into a delicate, clueless, and naive young lady who can't do anything. Well, it's a romance novel. It doesn't have to make sense. Besides, if Tiffany were a strong career woman, how would George take over the Taylor family's assets? I'm just a designer who draws blueprints, so I don't know much about the business world either. But after all, I've been in the workforce for over a decade, so I do have some insight and experience. After wandering around the headquarters of my own group for 3 days, my heart felt utterly cold. There were only a few loyalist, old employees left from the Taylor couple's era. The rest were either people from other shareholders, George's people, or a small number of neutral employees just coasting along. In the storyline, after the Taylor couple died in a plane crash, Tiffany's uncles, aunts, and other relatives were all eager to carve up the Taylor family's assets. Just when Tiffany was at a loss, her childhood friend George descended like a savior, suppressing her relatives and the ambitious executives within the group, helping her protect her parents' legacy. As a result, while Tiffany remained the chairman of the Taylor family group, many of the department heads and senior executives had been replaced by George's people. It can be said that George has already secured a pivotal position within the Taylor family, out of the frying pan, into the fire. I'm exhausted. What a mess. Perhaps it's because I have a naturally submissive streak. since I didn't cling to George as the plot intended, and instead kept my distance. George, on the other hand, became more enthusiastic. The messages George sends every day have increased from a few to dozens, and he occasionally calls or even comes to find me. I have rejected all of George's invitations, such as, let's have a meal together, let's go to the banquet together, or let's go to the auction together, using the excuse that it might upset Grandpa Powell. When he comes to find me, I avoid him even more. The main strategy is to stay away from the male lead. George wasn't foolish either. He gradually realized I was distancing myself from him and soon became suspicious. Where there's suspicion, there's investigation, and sure enough, it was already 9 o'clock at night. Even someone like me, who enjoys nightlife, was already in bed when George suddenly showed up at my house. When the butler knocked on the door, Edison and I were tangled up, kissing passionately and unwilling to part. I could only press against his chest, gently pushing him away to signal a pause. "What's wrong?" I asked, clearing my throat. The butler was perceptive. Unless it was a special circumstance, he wouldn't disturb us at this time. Mr. George is outside. He insists on seeing you. Tell him to get lost." Edison scowled, gritting his teeth as he growled lowly toward the door. Any man, interrupted at such a moment, would be in a foul mood. I glared at him and asked again, he's not leaving?" "Yes, he said he won't leave until he sees you," the butler said with some concern. "Miss, it's late at night. If someone takes a photo, it won't look good." "All right, let him wait in the living room, I'll be down in a moment." "Why do you want to see him?" Edison sounded even more displeased, his tone tinged with a hint of old jealousy. "Then why don't you go and send him away?" I smiled, tracing a circle on his chest with my finger. Edison's handsome brow furrowed. He thought for a moment, then shook his head. "No, we still need to wait. There are a few people I'm not sure have sided with George yet. And there are a few projects that haven't been settled. We can't risk alerting anyone just yet." "Then it seems I have no choice but to deal with him myself." I sighed helplessly, my expression a mix of grievance and anger. I truly never expected George to be that kind of person. He actually has his eyes on my family's corporation. Exactly, you can know a person's face, but not their heart. He's full of ambition. Edison seized the opportunity to stir the pot, leaning in to whisper in my ear with a hint of threat. "George," still calling him so affectionately, "Tiffany, you're not still hung up on him, are you?" "How could I be? He's already married." "I'm not that kind of shameless person," I retorted indignantly. "Besides, I trusted him so much, yet he treated me like a fool. If I were to trust him again, I might end up homeless one day without even realizing it." If you don't want to be taken advantage of, you'd better keep your distance from him." Satisfied, Edison pulled me in and kissed me for a long while. He picked out a long-sleeved shirt and pants from the closet for me. Only after seeing me fully covered up did Edison allow me to go out. Edison, a professional manager, is a renowned figure in the industry and currently serves as the nominal CEO of the Taylor family. Initially, George wanted to directly appoint his personal assistant as the CEO of the Taylor family, apart from Tiffany, who is love-struck. The other shareholders strongly opposed the idea. In the end, both sides compromised, and the renowned industry expert Edison was hired with a high salary. After all, I'm just a designer and know nothing about managing a corporation. In life, one should play to their strengths and avoid their weaknesses. So, I leveraged my strong suit and came up with a plan, the honey trap. I successfully hooked up with Edison, and naturally, he took charge of cleaning up the Taylor family. Anyway, Edison is good-looking, so it's not a loss for me. By the time I went downstairs, George was already waiting impatiently in the living room. "Tiffany, who is he?" As soon as he saw me, George threw a few photos and questioned me angrily. His posture was exactly like that of a cuckolded husband catching his wife in bed. After glancing at the photos scattered on the floor, I realized they were taken yesterday when I went out to eat with Edison. "Damn, you're following me." Luckily, Edison's face wasn't captured in the photo, so he probably doesn't know he's been betrayed by his good friend. Yes, Edison and George don't seem to have any connection on the surface, but they're actually alumni and have a close personal relationship. I only knew this because of the plot. Standing on the stairs, I crossed my arms and looked down at him. "So, you have a wife, but I can't have a male friend to have a meal with. You clearly know that Tara and I are in a fake marriage." Didn't I explain it already? When the time is right, I'll divorce her. She and I are just in a business relationship. George suppressed his anger and emphasized once again that he had nothing to do with Tara. An employment relationship. What decent employee sends their boss homemade meals every day? I sneered. Although I didn't visit the Powell family as frequently as in the plot, I created numerous alternate accounts and infiltrated the major work groups of the Powell family, of course. My many alternate accounts were also lurking in the major work groups of the Taylor family. Whether it was gossip from the Taylor family or the Powell family, I was always online to get the scoop, and it was always first-hand information. Who doesn't know Tara, the future lady boss of the Powell family? She's just, George thought for a moment, then delivered the classic line, she just took my money and did a nanny's job. She's nothing but a meal-delivering nanny. You have a nanny delivering meals, and I need to eat too. I'm just having a meal with a friend. What right do you have to question me? I said confidently. This is different. George was at a loss for words to refute, not giving him a chance to organize his words. I continued, when arguing, defense is useless, you have to attack. Take the initiative to attack. What's the difference? We're eating out in the open, with a clear conscience. But what about you? You're eating in a private office. Who knows what you're really up to? You. George was clearly angered by my counter-accusation, left speechless for a moment, and pointed at me angrily, unable to get a word out. After a long moment, George's angry expression paused, and he suddenly laughed instead. Tiffany, are you jealous again? I rolled my eyes inwardly and remained silent. George clearly took my silence as agreement and cheerfully assured me, Tiffany, don't worry. Tara and I really have nothing going on, we're completely innocent. There's nothing between us now, and there never will be. A man saying he has nothing to do with his wife. Go out and ask. Would anyone believe that? I challenged him. George pondered for 2 seconds and continued to assure, all right, I understand. I'll get a divorce as soon as possible. I'll also keep my distance from Tara. Although Edison didn't show himself, he eavesdropped on the entire conversation upstairs. Probably worried that I might be swayed back by George, driven by a strong sense of crisis, he worked diligently on his proper tasks and even more so on his improper ones. As for George, he might not have changed his heart yet, or perhaps he had but wasn't aware of it. In any case, the very next day, he sent a message about the divorce. Tiffany, we've already started the procedures. We'll be able to get the divorce certificate in 30 days, plus a few photos as evidence. I saved them directly and forwarded them to Edison. This thing has great utility, and Edison certainly knows how to make the most of it. After finalizing the divorce, George came to the Taylor family to see me every now and then, putting on a deeply affectionate act. Edison was both angry and anxious about George's pestering, but it wasn't the right time to break off relations yet, so he could only pretend nothing was wrong and endure it. During the day when George comes, by evening, the jealous Edison turns into a fierce wolf, especially ferocious. After 2 weeks of a very fulfilling nightlife, my period was late, and I casually mentioned it in front of Edison. Edison's eyes lit up with excitement, and he immediately stopped his work, eagerly coaxing me to go to the hospital. So, I found out I was pregnant. Tiffany, a baby, we're having a baby. Edison held the test results, his hands trembling with excitement. Pregnant, I feigned surprise, reaching out to touch my still flat stomach. Yes, I've got it, I'm going to be a dad. Excitedly returning from the hospital, Edison immediately clung to me. Tiffany, we have a child now. You have to give me a title. You have to take responsibility for me. This. What if George finds out and comes after us? Didn't you say many people in the company are his allies? I feigned worry, asking a rather naive question. If he gets angry, will our company go bankrupt? How could it be? The Taylor family has such a massive business. How could they possibly go bankrupt so easily? Edison's eye twitched, clearly annoyed by my foolish question. Moreover, with me here, I have made complete preparations and can now close the net. I will uproot all the people George has planted within the company. You don't need to worry about the company. Even if we break ties and sever cooperation with the Powell family, we won't be affected. Really, that's wonderful. Edison, you're amazing. I happily gave him a kiss and nodded in agreement. Let's get the marriage certificate first, and we can hold the wedding after the baby is born. You only get married once, So it shouldn't be rushed, it has to be grand, okay? I'll listen to you, Edison said with a satisfied and happy expression. Edison, you must take good care of our family's business. If anything goes wrong with the company, what will happen to our baby? We can't let him go hungry, can we? I held his hand and placed it on my belly, looking up at him with eyes full of dependence. Tiffany, don't worry, I guarantee the Powell family can't touch us. I'll make them spit out everything they've taken from us in the past. The next day, we went to get our marriage certificate. With the red book in hand, Edison felt at ease, and so did I. At this stage, we are completely in the same boat. Grandpa Powell's 80th birthday was celebrated on a grand scale. Since the Powell and Taylor families are old friends, I naturally received an invitation, in the plot, because Tiffany and George were entangled with each other, at the birthday banquet, in front of all the guests. Grandpa Powell harshly accused Tiffany of shamelessly clinging to his grandson, a married man. Tiffany was scolded to the point of tears, and George, that spineless man, didn't dare to utter a single word. But now, who's afraid of whom? That day, Edison attended the banquet as my male companion. Grandpa Powell, may your happiness be as vast as the East Sea and your longevity as enduring as the southern mountains. I linked arms with Edison and went through the motions. Offering a congratulatory remark to Grandpa Powell snorted with a displeased expression and, in front of everyone, made a series of veiled sarcastic remarks directed at me. Tiffany, the most important thing in life is one's moral character. A person must act with integrity and uprightness, and must not engage in anything that violates moral standards. Do you understand? This old man is essentially accusing me of seducing George, a married man, in the plot. It was Tiffany who was throwing herself at George and deserved to be scolded for being love-struck, but now, it's clearly George who keeps coming after me. It's George, a married man, who is immorally pestering me. This old man is talking nonsense with his eyes wide open. I've finally confirmed it. Whether it's this old man or George, they've long regarded the Taylor family as their own possession. Once something is in their hands, they naturally don't bother putting in any more effort. So this old man can brazenly humiliate Tiffany, and George can brazenly change his heart. It's just as the saying goes, when wealth doesn't match one's abilities, it invites plunder from others. I sneered. Chairman Powell, calling you Grandpa Powell is a sign of my respect for the elderly, but if you act arrogantly just because of your age, that's your mistake. It's absolutely ridiculous. I, a member of the Tang family, need you to teach me, if you have so much free time. Why not teach your own grandson, a married man, coming to our Taylor family every day? Anyone with sense understands, but those who don't would think I'm the one seducing him. You, the old man was clearly angered by my words, pointing a trembling finger at me. Edison took half a step forward, positioning himself protectively in front of me. Chairman Powell, you really should keep a tighter rein on young Master Powell. He keeps coming to the Taylor family's estate. People might start thinking the Taylor family is about to change its surname to Powell. How dare you speak out of turn? Let me introduce you. This is Edison, my husband, the kind with a marriage certificate, I said with a cheerful smile. At these words, Grandpa Powell's pupils dilated in shock, and his face flushed with fury, a rage even greater than when I had called him a senile old fool. Exactly. The cooked duck was snatched away by someone else, and he's furious with humiliation. Bastard. George, who overheard this, was briefly stunned for 2 seconds before throwing a punch at Edison, probably out of consideration for me. Edison didn't dodge and took the punch head-on. I quickly let go of him and made a strategic retreat. After moving to a safe distance, I panicked and let out a startled, "Ah." With me out of the way and no longer a hindrance, Edison immediately retaliated. And the two of them started fighting. The scene quickly descended into chaos. With all pretense of civility gone, after leaving the birthday banquet and sending me home, Edison wasted no time and headed straight to the company, convening an emergency meeting overnight to begin a thorough and decisive purge. Edison began to exert his influence within the Taylor family and subtly started targeting the Powell family. With the help of the media, the news of George and Tara's divorce was exposed. Old man George's grandfather, due to the conflict at the birthday banquet, was so angry that he ended up in the hospital. While still staying in the VIP ward, he learned about George's deceitful divorce news. In a fit of rage, George's grandfather directly removed George from his position and placed him under house arrest to reflect on his actions. This is definitely a huge assist. George's uncles, cousins, and other relatives were all ambitious but incompetent, leaving the Powell family in a state of disarray without a leader. Not only did Edison remove all the people George had placed within the Taylor family, but he also cut the Powell family out of the promising collaborative projects between the Taylor and Powell families, while pulling out of the unprofitable ones to minimize losses. Then, upon learning of George's absence, Edison grew even bolder and began directly seizing projects from the Powell family. The uncles, cousins, and other relatives of the Powell family were already incompetent and disorganized, making them easy targets for defeat. But even so, the Powell family members, each with their own selfish motives, were only focused on fighting for power and influence, and not one of them reported the matter to Grandpa Powell. For nearly a month, the Taylor family's stocks kept rising, while the Powell family's stocks plummeted continuously. In the end, the truth could no longer be hidden. And when Grandpa Powell found out, he was so enraged that the old man suffered a cerebral hemorrhage and passed away on the spot. As soon as the old man died, the Powell family descendants immediately began a fierce battle over the inheritance. Clearly, he's getting senile. Grandpa Powell's will regarding the distribution of his estate is nothing short of bizarre. Grandpa Powell holds a full 58% of the shares. In the original plot, 50% of these were given to George, ensuring his absolute position as the major shareholder, while the remaining 8% and other assets were divided among the others. But now, the will states that the 8% of shares and other assets are still to be divided equally among everyone, while the additional 50% of shares are explicitly designated for the eldest son of George and Tara. Before this great-grandson is born, the shares will be managed by George on his behalf. Finally, the will is valid for 10 years. If George and Tara do not have a son within 10 years, the 50% shares will be redistributed according to the inheritance law. Grandpa Powell is determined to have Tara as his granddaughter-in-law and even more determined to have a great-grandson from her. It must be said that this will is really quite capricious. After learning the contents of the will, I couldn't help but suspect that this old man might have had a crush on Grandma Tara when he was young. In the original plot, George, who held absolute control, took 2 years to completely eliminate his uncles, aunts, and brothers. But now, it's much harder. The Powell family descended into a chaotic internal struggle, seizing the opportunity. Edison, while vigorously developing the Taylor family, secretly undermined the Powell family and aggressively competed for their market share. Time flew by, and 3 months later, I stumbled upon a huge piece of gossip. Tara had died. Me, really? It's so unexpected. What's all this talk about love? When it comes to interests, love is just bullshit. Look, as soon as Grandpa Powell's will was announced, all talk of love went out the window. George didn't divorce Tara anymore. Instead, he started playing a game of confinement, working hard at home to make a baby. After a month of hard work, Tara finally got pregnant. 10 weeks later, under comprehensive protection, George took Tara to a private hospital for a non-invasive DNA test to check the baby's gender. Unfortunately, it was a girl. Shares are only for sons, daughters are useless. Eager to secure the shares, George forced Tara to take medication. Tara didn't care about shares or not. All she knew was that this was her child, and she had to protect her baby. So she pretended to take the medicine and, while George and the servants weren't paying attention, Tara sneaked out of the villa. However, before she could get far, she was hit by a car. Tara died on the spot. The driver fled the scene and later jumped into a river to commit suicide. The details of the incident are still under investigation, but there's no doubt it was someone from the Powell family who did it. With Tara dead, the son is naturally gone, and there's no need to wait 10 years. The remaining 50% of the shares can only be distributed according to the inheritance law. George jumped up and down in opposition, but it was useless. Half a month after Tara's death, Grandpa Powell's estate was completely divided. George holds less than 10% of the total shares. Additionally, because he is the most capable and poses the greatest threat, the other members of the Powell family have secretly formed an alliance, unanimously working together to eliminate him first. Within the Powell family, it's a fight to the death. Although George is formidable, he is outnumbered and can only desperately seek help from all sides. As a result, the the former simp, became his primary target. Of course, I refused to see him. Every time George came to the Taylor family looking for me, Edison turned him away. The internal strife within the Powell family quickly escalated to a fever pitch, fearing that George might ambush me and, in desperation, stab me in the back. Being heavily pregnant, took 2 bodyguards with me every day. When I was 8 months pregnant, the grand drama of the Powell family was nearing its end. The victor was George's uncle. The other members of the Powell family either went abroad or left to start their own ventures. George was among the latter, clearly aiming to make a comeback. However, the more anxious a person is, the more prone they are to making mistakes. After starting his own business, George became overly eager for quick success and aimed too high, which led to him being deceived. As a result, he lost a large portion of the remaining funds he had. Who was the one who deceived him? It was a scheme orchestrated by Edison. The butler told me that George wanted to see me outside, and of course, I refused. Perhaps out of desperation, George kept lingering outside my villa. I have highly paid bodyguards at home who could easily drive him away, but I chose to call Edison and let him handle it. Will a cornered dog bite back? I'm a bit excited. Edison came back soon. The car stopped at the door, and Edison went towards George. The two started talking, looking out from the window. One was radiant with success, while the other was shabby and down on his luck. Although I couldn't hear what they were saying, I could easily guess. As the saying goes, a tiger fallen on the plains is bullied by dogs. Edison must be gloating and mocking, adding insult to injury. After all, we are husband and wife, so I have some understanding of Edison. He is arrogant and a bit cocky, always believing that he is more capable and outstanding than George. Thinking that George was just born into a better family, he looks down on George, yet he is also jealous of George's birth. Now, with the support of the Taylor family, he has successfully brought down George, and the Powell family has been thrown into chaos. Naturally, he is extremely pleased with himself. I thought the two would start fighting, but I didn't expect George to be so impressive. A knife. He pulled out a knife. The change happened in an instant. Edison, who didn't react in time, was stabbed and struggled while screaming for help. The bodyguards downstairs heard the commotion and rushed out. 3 minutes. Not too long, not too short. It was enough time for the bodyguards to rush outside and subdue George, and also enough time for George to stab Edison several times, pregnant and with a big belly. I hurried over in panic and clumsiness, half jogging while desperately pinching myself, pinched until the skin broke. It hurt so much that tears streamed from my eyes. I had no choice, otherwise I wouldn't be able to cry at all. I'd probably just laugh. Seriously, George's move to go down together was absolutely brilliant. I have to give him a like. When I rushed outside, Edison was already lying in a pool of blood. Edison, you have to hang in there. The ambulance is on its way. Just hold on. I knelt beside him, holding his hand, crying with genuine emotion, taking a closer look. Oh dear, a big stab wound on his chest, another on his stomach, and one on his neck too. He probably won't make it. Before he could finish 2 words, a large amount of blood gushed from Edison's mouth. Realizing he was unlikely to survive, he gripped my hand tightly and rambled on. The safe, the password, my birthday, all my assets, all in there. You, listen to me, sell the company, you can't hold on to it. Find Mr. Wilson, Mr. Jack. They're good people. Once you get the money, absolutely do not start a business. Don't invest. Everyone out there, they're all scammers. Put the money, put it in a fixed deposit. Buy property, buy gold. Remember that. I remember. Don't say any more. The ambulance is coming soon. I have to say, I acted very successfully. Or perhaps the original owner's foolish image was already deeply ingrained. Anyway, up until now, Edison still thinks I'm a good-for-nothing fool. Who knows who the real fool is? He doesn't even understand the saying about a cornered dog jumping over a wall. Child. After saying this, Edison stared intently at my stomach. Here. I took his hand and placed it on my stomach. Given that he was about to pass away, I decided not to tell him that the child wasn't his. It was a kind of end-of-life care. The child in my womb isn't Edison's. It's from a high-quality sperm I carefully selected from a sperm bank. Why did I do this? Edison is no good. He receives a high salary from the Taylor family, yet he not only lines his own pockets but also colludes with George. If George has taken 70% of the Taylor family's wealth, then almost all the rest has ended up in Edison's pocket. Edison would stop at nothing for money. In the plot, he and George worked together to drain the Taylor family's wealth. After I transmigrated, although I intended to seduce him, I merely gave the signal that I had broken up with George, and he eagerly approached me on his own. I used him to deal with George, while he attempted to gain control of the entire Taylor family through me. In his eyes, I'm just a useless fool. Now that we're married and have a child, the Taylor family is completely his. Even if George hadn't betrayed me, I would have had him arrested for embezzlement before the child was born. Long before I transmigrated here, he had already embezzled tens of millions from the Taylor family by abusing his position. Strike first to gain the upper hand. If I don't catch him off guard now, I'll never have another chance. A woman who isn't ruthless won't hold her ground. Edison might have some genuine feelings for me now, but what about later? If he has a conscience, he'll at least ensure I have a comfortable life. If he doesn't, I might not even know how I'll die. One day when power is in my hands, I'll step on my wife's grave to welcome a new one. This isn't just a made-up saying, it's based on real experience. With someone like Edison as a bed partner, I can't even sleep soundly. How could I possibly have a child with him? After acting with all the acting skills I had for several dozen minutes, Edison stopped breathing before the ambulance arrived. He's dead, which saves me the trouble. Moreover, most of his estate is now mine. What an unexpected delight. George was ultimately sentenced to a suspended death penalty. At Edison's funeral, I dutifully played the role of a devoted wife, crying my heart out. While grieving, I didn't forget to network and build connections. It has to be said, Edison was a social butterfly. At his memorial service, quite a few of J-City's top executives showed up. After the funeral, I returned to the company with my big belly. Over the past year, even though I played the part of a clueless heiress in front of Edison, I wasn't actually foolish. When it comes to learning on the sly, I'm quite good at it. Although I've learned a lot, I still lack experience at the moment, so I've hired another professional manager, a middle-aged woman. Additionally, I've carefully selected 3 secretaries to assist me. Even a wise ruler needs capable ministers to support them. In the chairman's large office, I stand before the floor-to-ceiling window, holding a teacup worth millions. Leisurely sipping the tea left behind by my cheap father, looking down upon the entire city from a high vantage point. The female lead is dead, the male lead is imprisoned, the Powell family is in decline, the Taylor family is entirely in my hands and thriving. The former supporting female character, am now the queen. Every day from now on will be a good day. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. My brother and I are the villainous siblings in the novel. To save ourselves from our cannon fodder fate, my brother provokes the male lead, while I desperately try to smooth things over behind him. My brother snatched the top rank in the grade from the male lead. I cowardly apologize to the male lead. I'm sorry. Actually, my brother cheated. I'll give him a good talking to when we get home. My brother received the love letter from the female lead. I was crying my eyes out. My brother can't read. He thought it was a declaration of war. Oh, look at this mess. My brother beat up the male lead for no reason after putting a sack over his head. My vision went black, and I gritted my teeth and said, well, the fact that I like you was discovered by my brother, so that's why. The usually aloof male lead suddenly lifted his eyelids and glanced over. Really? My brother is the novel's villain, and I'm the malicious female supporting character. At first, I didn't believe it. What a joke. I won't even mention that I am drop-dead gorgeous myself. My brother is 6 feet 2 inches, handsome, wealthy, has a charming voice, is understanding, knows how to comfort people, and has an 8-pack. In a book, he'd definitely be the male lead, until the real male lead transferred to our school. Lucas, wearing his school uniform, had sharp eyes and brows, a calm expression, and wrote his name on the blackboard unhurriedly. I look at Lucas, then at my brother, look at my brother, then at Lucas. TSK, my brother is indeed a bit lacking. Perhaps my gaze was too intense. Lucas lifted his eyes and glanced over here casually. At just one glance, my heart raced as if it was about to stop. It seems like something is stirring. It turns out to be my money. When I came to my senses, I found that I had already taken out my wallet from my pocket and was counting the little pocket money I had left. $500. A bit too little. I lowered my voice and poked my brother. Bro, I want to support someone. What do you think? My brother also lowered his voice. How about I break your leg? Before I could snap back, our homeroom teacher Lisa banged the blackboard twice and said sharply, Shintingzhou, Sarah, if you have something to say, come up here and say it. My brother and I sheepishly lowered our heads. Unexpectedly, Lisa had no intention of letting us off the hook. She turned to Lucas with a smile and said, the new student hasn't been assigned a seat yet, right? Actually, you can sit next to Sarah. Shintingzhou, come up here and sit by the teacher's desk, so you two won't be chatting all day. What? The male lead had just made his entrance, and my brother had already lost his desk mate. Still, such a great desk mate like me, I'm heartbroken. It's all my fault for being momentarily dazzled by good looks. Did they really form a grudge against each other that quickly? After class, my brother sauntered over to Lucas's seat with his arms crossed, his thin lips parting to say, it's over. My brother, like a cannon fodder, immediately provoked the male lead, Lucas, who had been propping his head up and dozing off, frowned and glanced over with a weary expression. The atmosphere grew increasingly tense, with the smell of gunpowder in the air ready to ignite at any moment. I took a deep breath and declared emphatically, bro, spitting isn't allowed here. My brother's forehead veins bulged. No, Sarah, who told you I was going to spit? So what are you going to do? My brother choked on his words. His face flushed red, and he turned around and stormed off angrily. Just as I breathed a sigh of relief, I noticed Lucas looking at me thoughtfully. New classmate. Sorry about that, my brother. I raised my finger and tapped my head, saying with deep sorrow, there's something a bit off here. I hope you'll bear with me. I'm sorry, bro. Intelligence is precious, but life is priceless. For the sake of both our lives, you'll have to put up with it for now. Lucas raised an eyebrow, unsure whether he believed it or not, and buried his head to catch up on sleep. I quietly pulled a novel out of my backpack. This morning, just as I stepped out of the house, this book fell from the sky and tripped me, sending me tumbling to the ground. I stood with my hands on my hips, cursing for a long time, and only when I picked up the book did I realize something was off. First, the villain in the book had the exact same name as my brother and me. Second, every time I appeared in the book, it was accompanied by 5,000 words of physical description, and every smile and frown captivated everyone except the male and female leads. TSK, there's no other way. This is definitely me, no doubt about it. Unfortunately, I had only read 2 pages when the class bell rang, so I had to hide it under my textbook and read it secretly. In the book, my brother and I were practically capable of every evil deed. He committed murder and arson to suppress the male lead, while I, out of jealousy, kidnapped the female lead, and in the end, we were both sent to prison. If it weren't for the difference between men and women, they might even have bunk beds. I read with great interest and turned the page. The book wrote, the male and female leads came from the same orphanage, where they were often beaten and lived a life of going hungry 5 days out of 3. The two relied on each other for survival, being each other's only support. Later, they were adopted by 2 different families, and life became a little easier, but not by much. Lucas's adoptive mother was extremely controlling. She did not allow Lucas to lock his door, checked his phone every day, and would cause a scene at his school if he so much as spoke an extra word to someone. In this way, she forced Lucas to become emotionally detached and closed off. It wasn't until many years later that Lucas gradually emerged from the shadows with the help of the female lead, so Lucas had such a miserable life. And I actually did so many bad things to bully him. I really am a cold-blooded, heartless femme fatale. Swish, the book in my hand was suddenly snatched away. Lisa was furious and glared at me. Sarah, feeling bold, are you daring to read a novel in my class? It's confiscated. Come get it from me when you graduate. Tears welled up in my eyes instantly. No way. What if my brother and I don't live long enough to graduate? Lisa sneered coldly. Crying won't help. Go stand outside. I hung my head and shuffled out step by step. A cold voice suddenly sounded from behind. Sorry, teacher. I lent her the book. Lucas glanced at me indifferently and said to Lisa, "Can you return the book to me?" 2 minutes later, Lucas and I stood outside the classroom together. Of course, the book wasn't retrieved either. The sunlight was just right, and the warm, gentle breeze made one drowsy. I scratched my face and asked, "Why are you helping me, and why did you say that was your book?" Lucas leaned on one leg, standing quite handsomely. I got tired of sitting, so I came out to stand for a while. All right, the male lead's level of thought is truly something a petty, malicious supporting female character like me can hardly reach. A rich fragrance of osmanthus blossoms wafted over. My eyes lit up, and I pointed at the osmanthus tree downstairs, saying, "Look, the osmanthus is blooming. Let's go pick some later, dry them, and take them home, I'm telling you. My mom makes the most delicious osmanthus cakes. You should try making them when you get home too." I was chattering away enthusiastically and turned my head to look at Lucas, only to see him looking slightly dazed, lost in thought. I froze for a moment, remembering Lucas's family situation, and lightly slapped myself on the cheek. Stupid mouth, always bringing up the wrong topic, quickly trying to make amends. "No, no, no, don't go home, come straight to my place. You're so thin, my mom definitely won't mind having one more mouth to feed." Lucas's eyes flickered slightly, as if he wanted to say something but hesitated. I looked at him expectantly. Say yes, after eating the osmanthus cake my mom made, you can't hit me anymore." Lucas hesitated as he began to speak. I nodded encouragingly at him repeatedly. Say it out loud." Suddenly, Lisa pulled open the classroom door, poked my head twice with her finger, and started scolding me without any warning. "Are you two still chatting here? Do you think this is a market or a park? Damn it, of all times." I lowered my head resentfully, pretending to be a quail. After standing in punishment for a whole class, I was then sent to the playground to sweep fallen leaves all morning. As clever as I am, I never forgot my original intention even while sweeping the playground. And I collected 2 full jars of osmanthus flowers. I held up one jar in each hand, showing off in front of Lucas. "So, are you coming or not? The osmanthus cakes are guaranteed to be delicious." Lucas had very dark eyes, so deep and dark that it seemed any emotion would sink and vanish there, never to be seen again. At that moment, however, a faint, almost imperceptible smile flickered across them, but he still refused. "Sorry, I can't go home too late, all right." I deflated and slumped back onto my desk, feeling dejected. My brother happened to pass by and let out a cold laugh upon hearing this. "Huh, can't go home too late? Are you a grade schooler? Do you need your big brother to hold your hand and lead you home?" This time, before Lucas could say anything, I slammed the table and stood up first. "Bro, what are you saying?" What did I say?" My brother was startled. "Don't you know he..." I pointed at Lucas, but couldn't get the rest of the words out. No way. All those things about Lucas I read from books. If I just blurt them out, won't I be sent to a mental hospital? Besides, if Lucas himself doesn't want to bring it up, I definitely can't make the decision to talk about it for him. In the end, I stammered, for a long time and suddenly burst into tears. "Do you know, he's not an elementary school student. He's a high school student just like us, so intense." "But I don't know what's so intense about it." Lucas fell silent, and my brother was stunned. The world falls silent. On the way home, my brother scratched his head and asked me, "Sis, why do I feel like you're acting strange today? Especially, why are you always defending that guy with the last name Roberts? Aren't you the same? You get all prickly if you don't provoke him," I retorted irritably. My brother stroked his chin and pondered for a while. "I don't know what's going on either. But every time I see him, I feel my fists clenching." "Bro, you're hitting menopause. How is that possible? I'm only 17. My brother was shocked, and I seized the opportunity to press the point. "How is that impossible? It's just a matter of different physical constitutions. Brother, from now on, you must control your emotions and be strict with yourself, or you'll develop dementia right away." "Ah, really? Of course. Would your own sister lie to you?" My brother fell silent, lost in deep thought. "See you again." My brother's attitude towards Lucas has indeed improved a lot. At least his words aren't as sharp and sarcastic anymore. During PE class, I took the opportunity to get them to play basketball together. I pulled my brother aside and whispered to him, "Bro, you're so skilled. Lucas is new here and not familiar with things yet. If you guide him, he'll definitely admire you." My brother immediately got carried away and lifted his chin proudly. "Don't worry. Just watch how I handle it." I pulled Lucas aside again. "Desk mate, you know, my brother has never been the sharpest tool in the shed since he was little. I'm worried he might get into trouble. Could you keep an eye on him for me, please?" Lucas nodded. "I see." I breathed a sigh of relief and, feeling satisfied, trotted over to the vending machine on the other side of the playground to buy some water. When I came back, I saw my brother and Lucas had already collided, both falling to the ground. I only looked away for a moment, and "Aren't you two teammates?" I was speechless and quickly stepped forward, heading toward Lucas. "Lucas, are you okay?" Behind me, my brother's eyes widened in shock as he shouted, "Sarah!" I abruptly stopped in my tracks, turned around, and helped my brother up. "Brother, are you all right? I'm so worried." "You little heartless thing. That's more like it," my brother snorted with a laugh, leaning on me as he stood up, his brow furrowed tightly. "It really does look quite painful." I lowered my head and glanced at the wound. No wound was found. I looked at my brother in disbelief, but his pained expression seemed completely genuine. It might be an internal injury." I helped my brother walk a few steps and was about to ask someone to assist Lucas when I saw a figure rushing over to him. I couldn't help but freeze in surprise. I remember now. She was Jenny, the female lead of this book. The girl who had grown up in the same orphanage as Lucas, and today marked their reunion after many years apart. Jenny pushed through the crowd, crouched down, and said, "Don't move, let me check if any bones are broken." Before she could even touch Lucas's pant leg, he suddenly scrambled up from the ground with such agility that there was no sign of any injury. Lucas said expressionlessly, "I'm fine." Jenny was dumbfounded. "If you're fine, why were you sitting on the ground for so long?" Her gaze swept over me and my brother, then turned to Lucas, who was pretending it had nothing to do with him, and she understood. "One more to load. What about you? If your bone is dislocated, don't push yourself to walk to the infirmary," Jenny said, walking over and lifting my brother's pant leg. After looking for a while, she asked in confusion, "Where's the wound?" She straightened up and had a realization. "Load too." Nevertheless, at my brother's strong insistence, we still took him and Lucas along to the infirmary. The school doctor spent a long time searching with a magnifying glass, sweating profusely from the effort, and finally found a small scratch, reluctantly issuing 2 band-aids. Watching my brother's extremely exaggerated performance, I thought for a moment and said, "Lucas, since you're already here, you should get checked too, just in case there are any hidden injuries." Lucas shook his head. "It's fine, I used to get hurt a lot before, so I'm used to it. This little injury is nothing." I was taken aback for a moment, then remembered Lucas's past experiences. At the orphanage, my palms were beaten raw by a bullying caregiver. At my foster mother's house, even a small mistake would lead to physical punishment. How pitiful. I couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness. My brother slammed the table and stood up abruptly. "Damn, there's a green tea." Immediately after, everyone present clearly heard the sound of a joint dislocating. My brother's face turned pale, he gasped sharply, and fell back. I think I really sprained my ankle this time." The school nurse had a complicated expression on her face. She prescribed him 2 more bottles of spray. Jenny slapped the table, laughing uncontrollably. As she laughed, her eyes swept over Lucas's face, and her expression turned somewhat puzzled. "Wait, Lucas, have we met before?" She suddenly clapped her hands and took 2 steps closer. "I remember now. It's you. Holy shit, Lucas. You're still alive." In her excitement, she kicked over the chair my brother was sitting on. Amid a series of "holy shits," my brother lay on the ground, clutching his leg with a dazed expression, while Jenny, pale-faced, gasped weakly, Doctor, quick, my foot seems to be." The school nurse was speechless. Not a wasted trip. This trip to the infirmary was definitely not a wasted one. When we left the infirmary, Lucas and I each carried a bag of trauma medicine. Walking ahead, my brother and Jenny, one with a sprained left foot and the other with a sprained right foot, just happened to act as each other's human crutches, lagging far behind, still chanting slogans, "Left foot, right foot, 1-2-1, 1-2-1. It was only then that I snapped out of the chaotic situation from earlier. Why is the reunion of the male and female leads not quite what I imagined? I curiously asked Lucas. Did you and Jenny know each other before? Lucas nodded. We came from the same orphanage, and then, that's it, as the male and female leads. Where is your unbreakable bond? Under my inquisitive, or rather, gossipy, intense gaze. Lucas thought for a moment again, a trace of reminiscence flickering in his eyes. She used to be the leader of that group of kids, often causing trouble and mischief, stealing food from the kitchen. I wasn't involved. He paused, summing it up in one sentence. She thought I was pretentious, and I thought she was noisy. I was dumbfounded. No, what about the promised mutual redemption? This script isn't right. Lucas turned his head and glanced at me. You seem quite interested in my past. No, I was just asking casually. I chuckled awkwardly, trying to brush it off. Lucas, however, didn't seem convinced and leaned in closer. Really, that handsome face loomed larger and larger before my eyes. My heart skipped a beat, and before I could figure out how to respond, I heard my brother shouting hoarsely from behind, "Sarah, stay away from him, get away." At the same time, a short, sharp scream came from Jenny. "Damn it, why didn't you jump?" A loud noise came from behind, and I turned around belatedly. My brother and Jenny had already tumbled into a messy heap on the ground, unable to get up. After this incident, my brother was even more injured. Jenny had fallen on top of my brother and was relatively fine. She waved at us casually and limped away. I helped my brother walk home with difficulty. My brother was lost in thought for a long time along the way and finally spoke up. "Sis, don't you think I've been particularly unlucky these past few days?" That's just life." I replied absent-mindedly. "No, it's not just ordinary bad luck. I think it started when you became desk mates with that guy named Sia." Well, that's just how people are," I continued, brushing it off. "Sarah," my brother exclaimed, growing impatient. My expression turned serious as I said firmly, "Brother, what you're doing is wrong. You can't discriminate against Lucas just because he came from an orphanage. And calling him a jinx or an unlucky person is going too far, brother. I never expected you to be this kind of person. I'm really disappointed in you." My brother was taken aback. "Did I say that?" He thought for a moment and said in a serious tone, "I'm sorry, Sarah, it's my fault. I can't believe I was so narrow-minded. Thank you for reminding me. It won't happen again." I nodded with relief. Just as I helped my brother around a corner, I saw a familiar figure under the streetlight. "Lucas." I took a big step back, pulling my brother with me, causing him to stumble backward and start to yelp. Fortunately, I was quick-eyed and swift-handed, raising my hand to cover his mouth. "Shoo." My brother understood and nodded, then crouched down stealthily with me by the wall, peeking out. Only then did we realize that under the streetlight, it wasn't just Lucas. There was also a middle-aged woman of short stature. This must be Lucas's foster mother. The woman was holding a photo in her hand, glaring at Lucas. "It's already your senior year of high school. I've spent so much money on your food, your clothes, and transferring you to this school, not so you could make friends with all the wrong people." My heart sank. Although the content of the photo is unclear, I can still guess that it must be a picture of the few of us. The woman raised her hand and slapped the photo across Lucas's face. The sharp edge of the photo left a long, narrow cut on his cheek. Lucas remained motionless, his eyes downcast, his face half hidden in the darkness, his expression unreadable. Yet, for some reason, I felt that he must be deeply sad. Even my heart felt as if it had been trampled on, making it hard to breathe from the discomfort. The woman looked at Lucas's expressionless face and grew furious, her voice suddenly sharp. "Get on your knees." Lucas remained motionless. The woman's fingers trembled, almost poking Lucas in the face. Fine. It seems like you won't listen to anything I say now, right?" I never should have adopted such an ungrateful wretch. "Just wait. I'll track down every single person in this photo and make sure their parents discipline them properly." "Don't go." Lucas, who had been silent all along, suddenly spoke up. Then, without any hesitation, he knelt down. The long-neglected streetlight flickered twice. He knelt upright and straight in this pale light, like a green pine tree in a sky full of heavy snow. He said, "I won't be with anyone else again." My brother cursed under his breath, his fist clenched with a creaking sound, and he pulled me back, ready to step forward and argue. "What's wrong with this person, Sarah? stay hidden here, I'll go up and confront her. I raised my hand to stop him, trying my best to stay calm as I said, don't be impulsive. My brother seemed to realize something and stopped in his tracks. This matter cannot be resolved by passion alone. If we cannot completely help Lucas out of his predicament, then our current impulsiveness will only become a sword that stabs him in the future. Not far away, the woman seemed to have finally vented her anger and walked away, with Lucas following behind her. Let's think it over carefully and come up with a thorough plan before. As I spoke, I turned around and saw my brother's face was deathly pale, with cold sweat beading on his forehead. I was startled. Surely he wasn't this angry, was he? My brother weakly tugged at the corner of his mouth, his smile uglier than a grimace. Sis, I got so angry just now that I stepped wrong. I was speechless. Amid my brother's continuous screams, the chaotic day finally came to an end. In the middle of the night, my brother, who had been sound asleep, suddenly opened his eyes and shouted, "Wait, no." He turned over, sat up, and rushed to my door, banging on it loudly. Wait a minute, I had no idea Lucas was an orphan. How could I have discriminated against him? How could I have called him a jinx? A loser? Sarah, come out, explain this. I turned over and fell into a deeper sleep. Lucas has indeed become much colder toward us. Although his expression remains as impassive as before, I can sense the subtle differences. For instance, his lips are pressed tighter than before, and his gaze is more restrained. I watched with great interest for a while, making Lucas so uncomfortable that he filled in several C's in the blanks. Then I gave my brother a meaningful look. My brother immediately sauntered over, tapped on Lucas's desk, and pointed to a building outside the window. See that building? My brother arrogantly raised an eyebrow. In my first year of high school, I got into a fight with a thug who was collecting protection money at school, and my mom donated it. He turned his finger and pointed to another building. That one was from my second year, when I beat up an old bastard who tried to mess with a girl, and that one over there. My brother kept bragging about his achievements and then laughed heartily. Now you know how awesome I am, right? Ha 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 ha. I silently raised my hand to cover my face. My brother's acting is so bad. It's the kind of bad that would get his family history dug up by haters if he were in the entertainment industry for just one day. However, even though it's bad, it's useful. Lucas visibly relaxed a lot, no longer as tense as before. Just as I breathed a sigh of relief, I heard Lucas say, "Did you guys see something last night?" I shot up from my seat. No, never mind. My acting is as bad as my brother's. All right, we saw it. I lowered my head and fidgeted with my fingers. I'm sorry, we didn't mean to peek. And don't worry, we definitely aren't trying to make fun of you. We just thought, maybe we could help you with something. Lucas looked a bit stunned and somewhat at a loss for how to respond. In the end, he just said stiffly, "It's fine." My eyes lit up, and I tightly grasped Lucas's hand. "Do you want to leave that home? We've come up with a meticulous plan. We can definitely help you." Perhaps it was the brightness in those eyes that felt scorching, or perhaps it was the warmth transmitted through the hand that soaked in. Lucas felt an inexplicable urge to unconditionally believe those words. He said, "Okay." In the evening, my brother and Jenny hid in the shadows outside the school gate. Lying in wait, I crouched beside Lucas, taking notes. "Say it again. What does she hate the most about you?" "Falling grades, coming home too late, locking the door to my room, chatting for more than 10 minutes, and..." Lucas paused for a moment, then added another word, "puppy love." I didn't suspect anything and, holding the small notebook, pondered for a while before drawing a circle next to the term, puppy love. "All right, let's do it this way." I affectionately held onto Lucas's arm, looking all sweet and dependent. As we walked toward the school gate, Lucas's body noticeably stiffened. I paused, only then realizing what I had done. The night was deep, and all was silent, only two breaths intimately entwined together. "That's a bit ambiguous, buddy." With just a few steps, I grew more and more uneasy, more and more guilty with each stride. The moment I stepped out of the school gate, my brother let out a sharp, piercing cry in the darkness. "Something's wrong, this idiot. He's already tipped our hand by acting rashly." I followed the sound and saw Lucas's foster mother storming over angrily. She didn't seem the least bit affected by my brother's shouting. Plan successful. Without thinking too much, I grabbed Lucas's hand and ran. Just after turning a corner, My brother and Jenny caught up. My brother was still shouting. Who said you could hold my sister's hand? Let go, let go. I let out an awkward laugh. Haha, actually, I was the one holding his hand. My brother shouted even louder. If Jenny hadn't finally had enough and covered his mouth, the nearby residents would have come to put out the fire. That night, Lucas was arranged by my brother to stay in the guest room farthest from me, and in the morning, he went to school with us. As I expected, that person was already waiting in the office early. Lucas told me her name is Megan. As soon as Megan saw me, she rushed over with fire in her eyes. Is it you, the shameless one, who seduced our Lucas? Come here, at such a young age. How did your parents teach you? Without a word, my brother stepped in front of me. Megan grabbed him by the collar and shoved him aside. My brother took the opportunity to fall, slipping away nimbly, and clutching his leg. He cried out in pain. My leg is broken, pay up. I dropped to my knees, tears welling in my eyes, and shook my brother's shoulders back and forth. Brother, brother, don't you die on me. It's still early, and the only one in the office is the unfortunate Lisa. She has some understanding of Lucas's family situation, and as she watches our performance, a sudden inspiration strikes her. Oh dear, young Master Smith, how did you get hurt? I'll have the Smith family send someone to pick you up right away, but this has nothing to do with the school, so please don't take it out on us. Let his mother be the one to compensate. What do you mean it has nothing to do with the school? My brother flares up in anger. Let me tell you, if anything happens to my leg, I'll demand the return of all the buildings my family donated to the school, and you, Lucas, I'll make sure no high school in the country dares to accept you. I strongly suspect that the last sentence was a chance to settle a personal grudge. Megan's raised palm, which was about to strike, hesitated, and did not come down. Young master, the Smith family, donating buildings, she murmured. Her face stiff as she turned around, and let out an awkward laugh. It's a misunderstanding, all a misunderstanding. I didn't even use any force. How could it be a fracture? My brother snorted coldly. That's not for you to decide. Megan's full-blown anger was stifled, leaving her trembling with rage. It was you all who conspired to frame me. I exaggeratedly covered my mouth and gasped in shock. Auntie, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't just say whatever you want. There are surveillance cameras in the office. It was clearly you who pushed my brother. Seeing the situation turning unfavorable, Megan cried out without a second thought, I'm calling the police. I'm going to call the police. Lucas, who had been silent all along, suddenly spoke up. Mom, let's stop here. Megan was taken aback, only then realizing that Lucas hadn't called her that in a long time. So many years had passed. The time she spent hysterical and he spent in silence had far exceeded the once warm and simple days. Lucas's tone was flat, as if he were merely talking about an insignificant matter. I am over 18 years old, so your guardianship over me has already ended. No matter who I befriend, it is my own business. Between them, it has always been Megan who needed Lucas, not Lucas needing Megan. A dead silence spread throughout the small space. Megan's expression shifted from disbelief to anger. And finally, it all dissolved into helplessness. Megan, who had been wearing a look of anger since they met, suddenly hunched over entirely. She bent down, tears streaming down the fine lines at the corners of her eyes. Like a winding river. Why can't you just listen? Mom only wants what's best for you. Lucas, why can't you understand? Lucas looked at her and said softly, you took me out of the orphanage, and I was once grateful, but now, if you truly care about me, just let me go. Outside the door, the clamor of voices gradually grew louder as students chattered and laughed their way into the classroom. Megan seemed to recall something, her expression dazed for a moment, but in the end, she turned and walked away. Lisa picked up the test papers in her hands, her tone unusually gentle. You've put on quite a show for me so early in the morning. You guys, all right, you're all still young. No matter how big the obstacle in front of you is, you'll eventually overcome it. When you look back later, it won't even be a big deal. She patted Lucas on the shoulder and walked out on her own. Only a few of us were left in the office. I watched as Lucas wearily rubbed the space between his eyebrows. I knew he must be feeling very, very down right now. Suddenly, Lucas took a step closer to me and said, Sarah, can I lean on you for a while? He rested his head on my shoulder, but his movements were restrained, barely touching my body. I thought he just needed a little support, so I raised my hand and hugged him tightly, hoping to make him feel a little better. My brother immediately lost his temper. He stood behind Lucas. His face twisted as he watched the seconds tick by on his watch. 30 seconds. It's been 30 seconds. Hey, that's enough already. Lucas politely stepped back, offering a faint smile. Thank you. Don't mention it. We're friends, after all. I flashed a big grin, covering my ears as my brother dragged me out amidst his endless nagging, unaware that Lucas was gazing at my back from behind, his dark eyes swirling with indescribable emotions. After a long while, he finally whispered, "Friends, just friends." After the mock exam, my brother surprisingly came in first for the first time ever. I was shocked. Although my brother's grades are decent, in the novel, Lucas has never dropped from the top spot since transferring to this high school. At this moment, Lucas stood in front of the ranking list, his brow furrowed, his expression growing increasingly inscrutable. I nervously shuffled over, making small talk. "Wow, the weather is nice today." Lucas responded and said in a deep voice, "The weather is still a bit chilly lately, your brother." My heart skipped a beat, and I immediately bowed at a 90-degree angle, offering a smooth and practiced apology. I'm sorry. Actually, my brother just copied it. I'll talk to him seriously when I get back." Lucas froze. "I mean, tell your brother to wear more clothes. What if he passes his cold to you, huh?" I stood there frozen. "So it's not because the weather got cold. You're just trying to bankrupt my brother." After arriving home, I immediately grabbed my brother by the collar. "Speak, how did you get first place? Whoever you are, get off my brother." "Copied," my brother answered frankly. My vision went black. "Well, it really was copied. Why on earth did you have to copy your way to first place?" My brother said sternly. "Sis, don't you think that even though Lucas has broken free from his foster mother, he's still mentally wound up? I'm doing this to show him through action that it's no big deal to not be number one once in a while." I was stunned. I never expected my brother to be so thoughtful. I misjudged him. My brother smiled slightly and pulled out a delivery box from behind. "And Dad said if I get first place, he'll buy me the latest game console." Hey, so that's your real goal, isn't it? Life in the final year of high school was pretty monotonous. It wasn't until the eve of the college entrance exams that a sudden, shocking piece of news rocked the entire school. Jenny confessed her feelings by giving a love letter to someone on the playground. Jenny confessed, to whom? Could it be Lucas? Suppressing a strange pang of bitterness in my heart, I leaned out to look toward the playground. Not far away, a girl tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear and handed a pink envelope to the boy across from her. So youthful, so dreamy. But why does he look more and more like my brother? Oh my God. It really is my brother. Don't let Lucas see this. I turned around, looking for Lucas, only to find him already standing by the window, gazing downward. Damn it, he has already seen it. Lucas only lingered on those two figures for a moment before casually shifting his gaze into the distance. Damn it, he's already thinking about where to bury my brother. I'm so anxious I'm running around in circles. Bro? I went through so much effort just to barely maintain the precarious friendly relationship between you and the male lead, and then you went and stole the female lead. Are you crazy? Never mind. I closed my eyes, steeled my heart, and moved closer to Lucas. Seeing me approach, Lucas couldn't help but show a slight smile. "Sarah, I just saw on the playground." I quickly interrupted. "Misunderstanding. This is a huge misunderstanding. My brother can't read. So he probably thought it was a challenge letter." "Oh, look at this mess. Can't read." Lucas raised an eyebrow. "Yeah, that's right." I nodded repeatedly. Lucas looked at me with a strange expression and thought for a moment. "This is a bit serious. It's best to go to the hospital and get it checked out." When I saw my brother, I was furious. "Did you promise them?" No. After all, we're still high school students. So we should focus on studying first." My brother's face turned red, and his words came out fragmented. "Wow, he's even stuttering now, and still so principled. Besides, I'm the older brother, so of course I have to set a good example for you by not dating too early." I sneered, about to mock him back. But suddenly, Lucas's face flashed before my eyes. "Puppy love, me? This is a question worth pondering." I rubbed my chin, fell into an eerie silence, ignored my brother, and quietly went into my room to contemplate life. However, in a place I couldn't see. My brother's face turned extremely ugly, to the point of gritting his teeth. Indeed, it's that guy, damn it. After the college entrance exam, I went home and slept the whole day. When I woke up in the evening, I realized Lucas had sent me a message. The movie you like is out. Do you want to go watch it tonight? I've made a reservation at a restaurant. I threw off the covers and ran outside. Bro, why didn't you remind me? My brother walked out of the room, still half asleep. Huh? How long have I been asleep? What's the date today? Never mind. My brother is even less reliable than I am. I rushed to the cinema entrance, and Lucas patted my back to help me catch my breath. Don't worry, there's still some time before the movie starts. It's not because of the movie, it's because I wanted to see you. The words lingered in my heart, yet they remained unspoken. After catching my breath, I realized something was off. It was the height of summer, yet Lucas was wearing a long-sleeved shirt. What's more, I noticed a small bruise peeking out from his collar. What's going on? I started by unbuttoning his shirt. Lucas's voice trembled. Sarah. I ignored it and pulled open his collar. Sure enough, hidden beneath his clothes was a large bruise. My heart ached so much, I reached out and gently touched it. Lucas's eyelashes fluttered slightly with my movement. Does it hurt? Did someone give you trouble? No, and you still say no? I glared fiercely at Lucas, who pursed his lips in distress and hesitated for a long time before speaking. Actually, it was your brother, my brother. I felt as if struck by lightning. On the day after the college entrance exam, I was kidnapped by your brother on my way home. He was saying things I couldn't quite understand, crying while he punched me. I didn't hear a single word Lucas said after that. Bro. I looked up at the sky in despair. I really want to kneel down and beg you to stop messing around. It turns out I was on my knees, and you were just speeding up your own demise. At this point, there's only one way, I stammered, trying to cover for my brother. Well, actually, it's because my brother found out that I like you, so. Lucas suddenly lifted his eyelids and looked straight at me. Really? I nodded with a sense of resignation. In fact, this was not untrue. After careful consideration, I realized that I had indeed developed an inappropriate affection for Lucas without even realizing it. As the villainous female lead, I have ultimately embarked on the path of coveting the male lead, a great act of disrespect. I really deserve to die. But the next second, I was tightly embraced by Lucas, his fluffy head nuzzling against my shoulder. I like you too, Sarah. I've liked you for a very, very long time. In an instant, fireworks from the entire world seemed to burst before my eyes. Dizzily, I hugged Lucas back, my brilliant, dazzling first love. It all began at this moment. After the college entrance exam results came out, the four of us gathered together and spent the whole day researching how to fill out our college applications. In the end, Lucas went to FD University, Jenny went to TJ University, and my brother and I chose a 211 university near FD. The distance between these schools isn't very far. When I went back to high school to pick up some materials, Lisa handed me a book with a smile, and I suddenly remembered that the novel I had found back then was still in her hands. When I opened the book again, its contents had completely changed. The once melodramatic plotlines were gone. In their place was the story of our actual experiences, known as youth. Perhaps fate never truly binds anyone. The real future can only be written by ourselves. I turned to the last page. This long story has come to an end, and the ending is just one sentence. For the rest of my life, 3 meals warm with the glow of life. May Sarah grow in peace. After hearing the 2 stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my